Well, thanks everybody for being here. We just wanted to talk about some important challenges that we're facing in flood insurance. Before we start, just wanted to send all our thoughts and prayers, of course, all the victims of Irma and Harvey. Representing Louisiana, John and I, Senator Menendez in New Jersey, we're no strangers to natural disasters, unfortunately. With the National Flood Insurance Reauthorization coming up at the end of September, now being pushed back to December, we have used this opportunity to take in all the lessons that we've learned in these disasters, these really hard-learned lessons that a lot of the people from New Jersey and New York spoke about before on a personal basis, and just learn from these mistakes so we don't repeat them again. We worked on a bill, us along with Senators Cochran, Senators Rubio, and Senators Warren and Van Hollen. But there's been so much talk about the NFIP's debt and that the program is not solvent, it's not taking in enough money to pay out all these claims. So there's been pressure in the past 5-10 years to push premiums up and make people pay more and more and more. And rather than making the program more solvent, what that actually has done, the unintended consequence has been pushing people out of the program. And we've seen about 5.7 million policies drop to about 4.9 million. It's almost a 20% drop since Katrina. This is because they just can't afford flood insurance. And when we price them out of the flood insurance market, they're more vulnerable. They are not required to build the current building standards, and we end up paying for it dollar for dollar, taxpayer funds, when a disaster happens.
Everybody here is doing the right thing. We all have flood insurance. Is that correct?
Yes.
Look, we sympathize with everybody who got flooded in Houston and Florida, but we're doing everything right, and we're getting penalized. A Democrat and Republican coming together in this day and age to talk about flood insurance because we are doing something right and 85% of the people in the country are doing something wrong. That should be the issue, not NFIP reform. Thank you, Jason. I just want to bring that point up.
And those 85%, we believe, they want to have flood insurance. They just can't afford it right now. And you're making the decision between paying your rent, paying your mortgage, putting food on the table, and purchasing insurance on some event that may or may not happen next year or 10 years or 20 years from now. You're going to choose to put food on the table. Rather than just looking solely at the revenue coming in, how much premiums is coming in, we need to look at the holistic picture. We need to see how much the expected costs are coming out. I said before, flood insurance, FEMA pays over $1 billion a year. Over 30% of every dollar it takes in to private insurance companies that bear none of the risk. We understand we have to pay insurance companies to do the work, but it should be done, it should be paid at a reasonable level. $400 million, as I said before, we pay per year in interest. And that number is about to go up dramatically because we're going to increase the borrowing authority from Harvey and Irma. We're actually paying about 12% of the premiums we take in. There's no insurance fund in the world, there's no company in the world that's going to stay in business taking 12% of their revenue and using it to debt service. We had this bifurcated system where people who purchased flood insurance, who did the responsible thing, are going to be forced to pay every dollar of that back with interest. And the people who couldn't afford flood insurance, who just didn't get flood insurance, they're not going to be paying that disaster assistance back.
What can we do to get affordable flood insurance, not only for us, but for everybody, and let everybody pay their fair share? What can we do?
Glad you asked that, George. Urge your House, your Congressman, your Senator, your co-sponsor, S 1368. There's also a House companion to that, a companion to S 1368. That's a bill introduced by Senator Menendez, Senator Kennedy, 3 other Republicans, and 4 other Democrats. We provide a long-term reauthorization of 6 years. We cap premium rates at significantly lower than they are right now. We freeze this interest and we take it, instead of just paying it into some bottomless account, we use it for mitigation and affordability measures, things that will actually give a 5-to-1 investment.
The $400 million for 6 years is $2.4 billion. We're going to get times 5 back on our return. We're talking about getting $14 billion back on a $2.4 billion investment. Is that good government?
Yes.
Absolutely. That's what we want. That's the only bill that has that. And we're giving money back to the government that owns trillions. Let's fix the program. Is it okay if we call our congressmen and senators, wherever we are, and say, I want affordable flood insurance and I want you to support the SAFE Act? Is that correct? Call your congressmen and call your senators. And when you're done, call them again. Guys, I want to thank you. Please thank the Senator Menendez, and please thank Senator Cassidy. I appreciate your support. Thank you. Mr. Cummings.